Well,
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, we have 4 seats in the picture for them. I think it's here. We have the 4 seats in the front reserved for them, and I don't see them. But we'll be recording and we think, should I go ahead? Good evening, everybody. We're going to get started in just a second. If you could please quiet down a little bit. There we go. Good evening, everybody. I know we're very crowded. I appreciate you all being here. So we'll get right to it. Thank you. So my name is Ryan Grace. I'm the administrator for the Village of Willow Springs. To my left is Village President Melissa Nettermeyer. Her left is Attorney Bert Odelson, who is engaged for this special process here with the village. And to Mr. Odelson's left is Mr. John Housel with Housel Levine Associates. So tonight, you're going to hear from each of these individuals. You will be provided with a brief history of what has brought us here this evening, the work and the research that has been completed, and any future recommendations for our community. Please all remember that this is an informational only meeting and no official actions are taking place tonight. I'd like to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded and we also have a court reporter with us. Like all of our village meetings, this recording will be available on the Village of Willow Springs website starting tomorrow morning. At the conclusion of this panel's presentation, you will all be allowed the opportunity to make a statement that will become part of our record. We ask that you approach the podium, speak clearly into the microphone, and keep your comments to no more than 3 minutes. If you do not wish to publicly speak, but you do wish to make a comment, we will have staff members this evening with comment cards available. You can fill this out with your name, contact information, and your comment that you'd like to make, and that will be placed into the record on your behalf. So thank you again for being here, and now we'll hear from President Nettermeyer.
Administrator Grace, thank you. I extend a warm welcome to everyone here this evening. We are joined in the audience by a large showing of community members. Thank you so much for being here. And dignitaries from Pleasantdale School District, Pleasantdale Park District, the Township of Lyons, Countryside, Burr Ridge, McCook, Indian Head Park, and Lyons Township. Willow Springs trustees Ara, Moon, Micah, and Kennedy are present. Trustee Posh is out of town, and Trustee Carr is so sorry that he is absent. Tonight, we will learn about the findings of Housel Levine's study of the undeveloped property along Willow Springs Road between German Church and 79th Street. After Housel Levine's presentation, we hope to hear your valuable feedback. Your voices matter in shaping the future of our community. Your voices help to ensure that any future decisions would reflect the best interests of us all. I will begin by giving a brief recap of the year's events that brought us here tonight. In January, we learned that Lyons Township High School was considering selling its 70 acres of the subject property to an industrial developer. This revelation created much community unrest and concern for a myriad of reasons, but primarily because of the disastrous impacts that such of a development would have on public health, welfare, and property in the area. The property is bordered by Pleasantdale Elementary School, a park, and single-family homes. In response, promptly that same month, our village board unanimously passed a resolution in support of the property's current zoning, which we know bans industrial development while permitting other uses such as residential. In February, 5 neighboring units of government and more elected officials signed on in support of no industrial on this site. In March, Lyons Township High School dropped its plans to sell to an industrial developer and took the property off. In June, with the advice of our special counsel, our village board passed a temporary moratorium to put a hold on any development on the property so that we could conduct an updated review of the land and zoning. At our first September village board meeting, our village board approved engagement with the land consulting firm of Halcyon Levine. The experts at Halcyon Levine have completed their review of the land and have prepared them. In our steadfast commitment to transparency and community engagement, we turn to the insights of our experts to guide us together through the support tonight. Before we dive into them, we will first get the insights from our special counsel, Bert Olson. Mr. Olson is founding partner of Olson, Murphy, Fraser, and Brad. Years experience in this space. And while I have provided a brief overview of what has transpired in the past year with respect to this property, we are fortunate that Mr. Olson can share his unique and deep understanding of the history of this property and its owner. So with that, I will turn it over to Attorney Bert Olson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening. When the mayor and the administrator called me regarding the high school's attempt to sell parcel of land to a large industrial company, my first response, as being a former village attorney and familiar with the zoning ordinance and the comprehensive plan, was: have they applied for any type of relief from our zoning code? Have they asked for a special use, a variation, a change in zoning? As we know, the answer was no. Facts concerning the illegal closed session held by the high school was revealed with a scathing opinion of the Illinois Attorney General. Question for our village was: how do we protect our residents, our schools, and our children? The answer is simple: compliance with our established ordinances and zoning requirements. However, if we were to be sued by a large industrial company and the high school, the case would be extremely expensive to defend for our small village. Rather than sit and wait for a lawsuit, the mayor and board were proactive, hiring a very well-known land planner to evaluate the comprehensive plan and zoning amendments the village has passed in 1990, 1998, and 2002. Having been involved with our zoning code through the years as the village attorney, I was confident that it was correct and reflected community's input in putting the codes together, which you'll hear in a minute from Mr. House. The firm the village hired, Halcyon Levine, is well established in our community, as well as numerous other communities. Mr. Hauser will talk about that in a minute as far as his company's breadth of experience. I will have a little bit more to say after the presentation, but let me say I want to thank the mayor and the board for allowing me to be part of this project and invested in this village and living about a mile away from here. It was an absolute pleasure to do and restored my confidence in the fact that our zoning ordinances have been really well maintained throughout the years, including the input and public hearings that this village has had for its residents to establish the zoning that we now have. Having said that, I turn this over to John Housel. His name is first in the company. But also for coming out here to with you. Please give him your courtesy. He has a lot to go through. After the presentation tonight, and after questions and answers, we will hand out copies of the report Mr. Housel has given to us, so the community can know how confident we are and how confident he is of what the village has done through the years.
All right, thanks for thanks everybody for coming out. I appreciate it. Give you a little bit of background about myself and my firm, just so you know what I'm talking about. And then I'll go to the memorandum of analysis Burke was referring to. And again, we have copies written what you want after the meetings, you'll be able to see. I'm not going to go through and read it to you verbatim, give you a lot more. I'll get that money notes and we can certainly look at it in more detail. So again, my name is John Housel, principal and founder of Housel Levine Associates. They are the highest credentials you can possibly have as a planner in the United States. I'm an FAICP. A lot of planners are AICP, a very select few are considered to be fellows. And they're the planners that have demonstrated a significant influence on the professional planning. Have been inducted into the College of Fellows with planners. A little bit of background, you know, it's like on the municipal side, it was a planner for the if you write planning for URS corporations. I was director of planning for Chicago. The last 19 years, the city had worked with more than 400 communities across the United States. I personally have worked on approximately 200 continents, about 30 states across the United States. I have written probably 50 zoning ordinances in 6 or 7 states across the United States. To give you a little flavor for just some of the local comprehensive plans. Countryside, if you want to say a word, on the Countryside website, the draft plan is on the website. I'll hopefully take it to public hearing for adoption in December and January. It's a matter of scheduling around holiday. We did their last one, we did their update. Oak Park, River Forest, Palos Park, Palos Heights, Naperville, Elmhurst, several of the ones in the North Shore. We've probably done more than 60 in Chicago. Tonight, what I was asked to do was to take a look at the subject property of the property in question. And take a look at it with respect to the planning and zoning of the property. I've had to, over the years, on a number of occasions, served as expert witness, expert testimony for court cases where a developer was suing a municipality. I have always acted on the interest of the municipality. I'm not a developer's hired gun. I mean, city said that that's surprised, so it's a big so what I did was I analyzed the property and the potential of industrial use and zoning of the property, subject to something that is referred to as the LaSalle-Sinclair factors. This seems strangely decorative importance, but if you're an attorney, you may have it around the audience, but the LaSalle-Sinclair factors, there were a couple, you know, in the United States, remember there's the way things are legally determined. There's always court case precedent. You know, attorneys are always citing court cases as legal foundation for things. Well, there were a couple of key court cases in the United States. They happen to be here in Chicago that had to do with zoning and planning relative to denying a zoning request for development. And when these sorts of lawsuits go to court, they are evaluated against the LaSalle-Sinclair factors. So LaSalle National Bank versus the County of Cook, sound familiar? In 1957, and Sinclair Pipeline versus the Village of Richmond Park. That was in 1960. Those two court cases still make a precedent that courts use to determine the appropriateness of zoning and planning and how it's used to approve and or deny development. When they go to court, attorneys and the judge will write down the LaSalle-Sinclair. They met or they not met, what's the rationale behind it? And that's the litmus test for the appropriateness of planning and zoning. And what they're looking for is that planning and zoning is consistent with sound planning practices and correct for planning of that property and the area. And that the decision to deny was not arbitrary or capricious. They just make up what they didn't want. There's sound reasoning behind it. So in the report that you'll all get a copy of after tonight, after the meeting, I went through all those LaSalle-Sinclair factors specifically for this property. Now, I didn't have a particular development that was proposed, and I didn't have a There was no logistics center or any time, building, something that was proposed that had actual development proposal that went through the pipeline and was denied to react. So I evaluated it versus the planning and zoning of the subject property, and the potential of it being rezoned to accommodate an industrial. That's it. And just to sort of cut the chase now, explain a little more, and put you at ease. I'll just read like the second sentence in my report, and it's a lengthy report. After careful review of the village's comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance, reconnaissance of the subject property and surrounding areas, the examination of related materials, it is clear the village's planning, designation, and zoning of the subject property is not arbitrary or capricious, but is instead considered as consistent with best practices in the long-range planning of the area. So it's right off the bat, what I state in my report, then I go further to explain that. I think it's also important, as alluded to, this is an area that was planned once decades ago and forgotten about. In 1989 through 1990, the comprehensive plan process unfolded. In 1991, the comprehensive plan was in 1998, the comprehensive plan was amended to include the village center amendment, sub-area plan amendment to the comprehensive plan. And in 1998, 4 years later, in 2002, it was amended again, specifically to a sub-area plan for the subject property in question at the North Willow Road corridor at that section. And then 5 years later, in 2007, there was updates to the zoning ordinance to make sure the plan and zoning ordinance. So over that approximately 30-year history, there are 4 different times the planning and zoning was amended, calibrated, and every time a planning process was done, extensive public outreach, meeting with people, having workshops, and getting community feedback. So the process itself is very diligent, transparent, and community driven. And that's important, legality of the process. So I'm going to go through, and I'm not going to go through it in super detail, but I want you to understand what it is that the courts look at in terms of determining if a decision to deny a type of use or development is found. So I'm going to go through these 7 factors. The first one is, it simply states, you have to consider the existing uses and zoning of nearby properties. It's pretty simple. Don't look at the subject property, you look at everything around it. To the west, all residential, right? You have R1, SR4, and NWSRC plan development, all residential zoning districts. The uses in those areas to the west are residential districts. You have a park, you have an elementary school, you have primarily single-family detached residential, and you got single-family detached. So that's all residential and elementary school personnel. That's it. That's it. They're west. To the north, you've got some properties that are zoned R3, again, residential, and single-family detached homes zoned SR4, the R3 or townhomes, we call it single-family attached. The SR4 is single-family detached or single-family. You also got the Edgewood Valley Country Club, so the massive opens. So everything in the north is residential or opens. The southwest property, the south of the subject property across Karen Church Road, single-family homes, also zoned R1, single-family detached residential. You look at the property east of the subject property, and you look at, you've got a lot of public facility use. You've got Willow Springs Police Department, you've got the Tri-State Fire Protection District, you've got Willow Springs Public Works. You've got all of these uses that are on the east side of Willow Springs Road. You don't have industrial uses, they're all zone or uses on the west side of Willow Springs Road. You then also have in the neighboring communities, you've got light industrial and heavy manufacturing and light manufacturing districts, the gas facility and their ancillary parking. One facility, it's actually 2 different zoning on that massive. Parking is one zoning facility and parking is another. One is heavy manufacturing, the other one's slightly light manufacturing. All manufacturing industrial zoning. There's a slight difference in intensification. It's all basically the same. The parking lot on the western edge of the facility is actually called LM manufacturing. So to the east, you only have industrial zoning on the other side of this. It's historically been a partition between industrial and the So this area is very clearly characterized by residential local terms of existing land use and existing zoning, large open space golf course, further reinforcing the low intensity character of this area. There is no industrial zoning or industrial established uses, west of Willow Springs Road or Willow Springs Corner line. That's the first one, so that's again, get captured what's going on in the area. The second standard is the extent to which property values are diminished by a particular zoning classification. And so I'm not an appraiser, not a property appraiser, I don't know if anybody here is. When these things go to trial, if they do, or in a lawsuit, on both sides, we get appraisals and start appraising them. But the standard here is the extent to which property values are diminished by the particular zoning classification. So my assertion is that the property value of the subject property, vacant property, isn't diminished by this zoning. This zoning accommodates a lot of uses: residential, single family detached, single family attached, senior housing, residential. It accommodates limited commercial. It accommodates limited office. It accommodates open space. There is a wide range of commercial viable uses that are planned and zoned for on the subject property. Just happens to be that industrial is not one of them. So the property value in my mind, or I'm not an appraiser, the property value in my planning professional opinion is not diminished by the zoning. Okay. The inclusion of industrial use on the subject property would not be compatible, in my professional opinion, with the surrounding uses of residential, school, and apartment. And that would have a diminishing impact on those surrounding existing established areas to the north, to the south, and to the west. So very clearly, when we talk about property values and the diminishment of them, the property, the subject property is not diminished with zoning right now. But any change in that zoning to accommodate industrial would, I think, diminish the property values of this property. The other thing that's important is you hear this term about how is the best use. I don't like that term. It raises a lot of the attorneys like it. Nobody knows likes that. Doesn't mean much more than what you want it to be. There is no guarantee that a municipality has to provide zones simply to maximize the profit or waste the best use of the subject property for the person that owns it. Planning has to be reasonable, zoning has to be reasonable, it's got to be abundantly developed, it's got to be, it's got to be, fair and right and deemed appropriate for the property in surrounding areas. But there's no requirement that a municipality has to zone it and plan it to maximize the potential for so that expectation doesn't exist. And it exists, there's no legal obligation. I think it's important that we start looking at values to diminish value. The third one, so that's the second one. The third standard is the extent to which the destruction of property values to the plaintiff promotes the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the public. The mayor spoke a little bit about the diligence with which the village has taken care to plan and zone the property to safeguard the public interest and welfare. And that is the primary charge of municipality from a planning and zoning perspective. I think you've done that very clearly in my mind. So 3 talks about the extent to which the destruction of property values of the plaintiff promotes. So what they're saying is, if denying, so I'm saying, if denying the industrial use of the property is a destruction of property values on the owner of the property, that's okay, provided that there's a health benefit and a welfare benefit. Okay, so let me say a couple of things. I don't think there is a destruction of property values by denying industrial. I don't think that test is met. There are a lot of market viable in-demand uses that the current planning zoning watch. Not just one, it's not all residential. So I do not believe there's a destruction of zoning. So that's one thing. That said, when you talk about the value of the plaintiff promotes the health, safety, and morals, the general welfare, the existing planning on the site very much promotes the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of them. It talks about being compatible with the adjacent residential, school, and open space. Both planning and zoning accommodates things like landscape buffers and barriers and open space to ensure compatibility of design and development. So one, I do not think there's any destruction of the property values or potential by denying industrial. I don't think that's at all true. And by not having industrial on the property, you significantly improve the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the current zoning plan. The fourth standard is the relative gain to the public as compared to the hardship imposed by the property owner. So what they're saying is, yeah, it might be hardship for the property owner, but it's you excluding their benefits. That way out. So again, I'll go back to, I don't believe there's any hardship on the property, so you can't get industrial. There's no hardship. And it is, again, there's no guarantee of you have to accommodate price and best use for the most intense thing that you can honor. There's never a legal standard that that's a presumptive thing that you can take into consideration. So I do not believe there is any hardship on the property owner imposed by the village saying you're not going to do industrial. That's not a hardship, it's reasonable, right? The relative gain to the public with the uses that are planned for it, again, residential, senior housing, open space, limited commercial or office. Gains to the public include compatibility to the existing residential, school, and open space that's firmly established and character defining for this community. Additional housing, one of the biggest issues facing every community in this country, without exception, is housing. The type of housing, the affordability of housing, the price point for housing, the diversity of housing stock. So when you're young couple with a couple of kids, you might want something different. When you're 85, you want something different. You want different housing product available in your community. The development of this property under current planning and zoning provides you opportunity for different types of housing. Those industrial that would be denied. Senior housing specifically stated in the plan and zoning to accommodate senior housing. Again, as much as I like to think we're all getting younger, folks, we're not. And so this has been something that every community is increasingly in need of. Limited commercial and office under the current zoning and current planning. This accommodates limited commercial and limited office. So it begins to approach a changing market for office professional employment uses in a compatible residential scale setting. And it also provides for the provision or the opportunity for the provision of goods and services on that corner on the eastern edge of the property, far away from the existing residential, that might provide some neighborhood scale commercial uses, so you wouldn't have to drive by way to get some of the things you might. That's a potential in the planning and zoning, so it offers that now. And open space and tree preservation, both the planning and zoning specifically call out for landscape buffers, tree preservation, and other sort of conservation zoning techniques to maximize, minimize the footprint of development on the site in terms of maximizing environmental benefits. And so these are all benefits. Under your current planning and zoning, there are a number of benefits under what is currently allowed to be under current planning and current zoning. And I do not believe there is what the standard refers to specifically as a hardship imposed on the property owner to be denied. If industrial doesn't go there, it's not a hardship. You might not get to do everything you want, that's not a hardship. It's the best considered engineering convenience. That doesn't meet the standard. The fifth one is the suitability of the property for the zone purpose. And so, in layman's terms, does the proposed, the best way to think about this is, does the proposed property fit the site? The suitability of that property for the zone purposes is ideally suited for a mix of residential, maybe some seniors, some single family detached, maybe a little commercial, a little bit of office, some open space, and landscape buffers. It's perfectly suited, right? And that's what is currently planned and zoned. So it fits that extremely well. It can accommodate a wide variety of uses. It's not just one thing. And let me just read, I think this is an important excerpt to read. As stated in your ordinance, there's the quote. And this is zone North Willow Road Springs Corridor Planned Development District. So let me just read this. It's stated in the Willow Springs ordinance. The North Willow Springs Road Corridor Planned Development District is established to provide the development of a compatible mix of open space, commercial, single family, residential, and senior oriented residential uses. And so it's currently zoned, it accommodates all of those types. There's no lack of suitability there. All of those uses are suitable and it's zoned for that. What would not be suitable is to change the zoning to accommodate industrial. So the standard is the suitability of the property for the zone uses. It is perfectly suitable for the currently zoned plant uses. It is not suitable for any proposal to rezone it for industrial, right? Further, industrial uses are specifically prohibited on the site, in the zoning ordinance, and the comprehensive plan specifically states any industrial use should be east of Willow Springs Road. So both your long-range planning is amended over 30 years, and your zoning ordinance specifically identifying industrial uses not. And that is never waived. And that's important. It's not like you did at one point and they changed, well, you thought it was so bad, you did it at one time, never. And that's consistent, over a lot of extensive studies and documents over the past 30 years, that has been a consistent problem. Industrial design along the property, it should be prohibited, it should be. So that's very consistent. So suitability of the property for the zone uses, very suitable as it's zoned and planned right now, not suitable if it were to be amended and planned and zoned for industrial. And my report goes into more detail. If you're having trouble sleeping, I practice badly. Not enough, no, that's very. The length of time the property has been vacant is zoned, considered in the context of land development. I think the standard has limited applicability. And what you're trying to get at here is that the zoning on a piece of property is it's so onerous or restrictive, it just can't be developed. It just can't get anybody interested because the zoning is not going to accommodate any interest, right? And so the property's going to vacant for quite a while, but I've not seen any evidence or not heard anything proposed. That the zoning is what is keeping this property vacant. Right? I've not seen any evidence of that, so I can't comment on it. However, the reason I think this has little relevance is the existing planning zone for the property accommodates a wide range of uses. If the zoning on this property was 1 acre, single family residential, they had a hard time doing that. Okay, maybe you can make a case that you can boost it up a little bit. You can accommodate single family residential, single family attached residential, office, limited neighborhood, commercial, senior housing. That's a lot of stuff, right? So I do not believe the fact that the property is vacant today is a result of the zoning of the property. I'm not seeing anything to the contrary, so I can't comment. My professional opinion is that this area has little applicability, based on what I reviewed. I don't think it's been restrictive, to moving the property. The seventh standard is the community need for the proposed use. And this means that is a developer or someone or property owner proposing a development that's being denied, but there's a real need for this use in the future. What's the community's need for this use? Right? Well, you can make the case in a landlocked community with little development opportunity, that you might need 10 senior housing supply. You may need some more residential, included room for residential. Across the street and up and down the canal and the highway, the railroad, and the utility line, up and down this section, there's a lot of industrial all over. There's a lot of industrial vacancy properties all over. But there's no demonstrated need for industrial on this property. So I don't see any evidence that there is a community need for industrial use on this property. Further, I think there is a community need for the uses that are permitted to be considered or zoned or planned for this property. Again, being a wide variety of residential uses, open space, limited commercial, and limited office as a potential environment. A development doesn't have to provide those, it has the potential to consider, right? And this, I think, was one of the important things to consider with regard to the need to use. One of the most considered drumbeats in all your planning documents and zoning is to quote unquote strengthen and reinforce existing residential uses and quote protect single family areas from encroachment of adverse impacts, right? These are stated very clearly in your comprehensive plan. Read those again. Strengthen and reinforce existing residential, not new stuff, stuff that's already surrounding this property, right? And to protect single family areas from the encroachment of adverse impacts, right? So putting industrial on this property doesn't serve any of those needs, right? It doesn't serve any of those. In order to fulfill the objectives of your comprehensive plan, what you need there are compatible uses. Uses compatible with residential neighborhoods, uses compatible with adjacent open space, uses and development compatible with elementary schools and parks. That's the need. It's stated in your comprehensive plan. The need is not served by industrial, it is served by what is currently zoned and proposed. And the last standard is the care with which the community has undertaken to plan its land use development. This is that sort of arbitrary and capricious. There's been a lot of planning in Willow Springs in general. There's been a lot of amendments, both to this subject property, the comprehensive plan in general, and the village center area, as well as amendments to zoning over time to drill down and even get more responsive to this property and the surrounding areas in Willow Springs Road. So it's very clear to a lot of evidence that over the last 30 years, there's been a lot of diligence and care to plan and zone in response to the needs and aspirations of this community consistently. And it's not done so in a knee-jerk, reactionary, arbitrary or so the care with which planning has been undertaken is very, very evident. And I go through my report, and I will now break down how the planning was done in 1991, specific quotes, specific goals and objectives, actions, policy decisions in terms of land use and objectives. And then I break down the village center amendment in 1998. I break down the comprehensive plan amendment in 2002, and I break down the Willow Springs zoning ordinance amendment that was most recent. So I review at 4 different points over the past 25 years where planning and zoning was considered, thought through, lengthy process, people talked to, public hearings, and a decision making. Right? And that consistency over time has led to this. So that's a lot. I know. I apologize for going through it. You'll be able to read it all when you want to. There is one mistake where I say east instead of west, and I can point that out. I'll make sure that so we talked about it before. But the bottom line is, from a professional planning perspective, based on the 30+ years of experience doing planning and zoning and comprehensive planning and legal expertise for lawsuits. Planning here for this property under the North Willow Road corridor plan development district, accommodating a wide variety of residential, single-family detached, single-family attached, senior housing, neighborhood commercial, and office uses along with open space is appropriate. Is consistent with sound planning practices and good planning for the subject property and surrounding area, and it is not arbitrary and capricious. And then modifying it or rezoning it to accommodate an industrial development would be harmful, would not be consistent with good planning practices, would not be consistent with sound planning and diligence over the years, and it should be left the way it is and not changed to accommodate. So that's my report and analysis.
Thank you very much for all that information. Of the issues that we had asked for on this and this report, and I would like to further comment about spiritual audience. So if we could, as stated previously, let's please all use the podium here, step up and say your name clearly. If you're not feeling like you want to step up and you'd rather fill out a comment card, we can do that at this time.
Good evening. I'm Margaret Savannah, president of the Pleasantdale School District on the Saturday Board of Education. I'd like to speak on behalf of our board and district in thanking you for all you've done to protect our community, schools and students. This journey in fighting industry began many months ago for our community and has been one filled with much angst and trepidation for us all. But we are proud of how our community has come together to prevent this from occurring. Our elementary school sits a mere 25 feet away from the property in question. So we have a direct, vital, and vested interest in the outcome of this landscape. Our school district's concerns lie not only with how this would affect our residents, but more specifically, how it would affect our students, who would be learning and playing in an area that shares a common border with the proposed industrial zone. Many studies have shown that there are vast negative implications, not only to the health and well-being, but also to the educational and academic performance of children who matriculate in close proximity to industrial development sites, including warehouse and transportation hubs. An industrial development on this land would subject our youngest learners to the daily exposure of toxic emissions each and every day for a minimum of 180 days a year. Industry does not belong there. It's simply something our board and administration could and cannot allow for. And while LT has claimed it has a fiduciary duty to obtain the highest price for this land, we would argue that our village and school board not only has a fiduciary duty, but also a moral and ethical obligation to protect the health, well-being, and safety of our community members, especially the most vulnerable of which are our youngest learners. And that duty trumps any financial fiduciary duty that LT may claim to have. We know that this journey is not over yet, and that we will have to continue to work together to overcome this. But we want to thank Willow Springs for being an open, communicative, and collaborative partner throughout this process. From day one, you assured us that you would work to protect our students and community members, and have been true to that very word. Your due diligence, leadership, and advocacy has kept our students and community safe. And we want to sincerely thank you for that. You have truly gone above and beyond to protect our community, dedicating countless hours and time to this cause. And for that, we express our thanks and continued commitment to standing with you. Thank you once again for all you've done, and we remain your partner in this fight together.
Less. I want to take the village of Willow Springs. As many of you know, the room. Like all of you for probably. And our partners have been set that. So again, tonight, thank you very much for the presentation. Mayor Dunbar, District Grace, Board, thank you very, very much for your dedication to our community and your partnership with all of us. Thank you.
I'm a Willow Springs resident with adjacent to the Lyons Township High School property that has been the topic of much discussion over the past year. It was just allowing me an extra minute than they allowed of time. First, I want to thank the Village of Willow Springs for hosting tonight's presentation. The opportunity for an open forum concerning the future of this land that has caused so much anxiety and uncertainty. I also want to thank Mr. Halfield for a very exhaustive and informative presentation. I especially want to thank Village President Nettemeyer, Village Administrator Grace, Village Trustees Ara, Kennedy, Micah, Carr, Moon, and Tosh, as well as the entire Village Administrative staff and legal counsel for their tireless efforts over the past year to ensure that Willow Springs residents remain protected from unwanted industrial development. That prohibited use would have a profound negative effect on area residents, surrounding communities, and the children who attend Pleasantdale Elementary. I am confident after everything that we've been through that when a proposal reaches this room again, if and when the property is sold, you will handle it with the same care and consideration that we greatly appreciate. Your collective leadership and decisive action on this issue since January demonstrates the best of public service. Listening to constituent concerns, fostering collaboration, and advocating for outcomes that are in the best interest of our community. I think it's especially important to note for those who do not attend the many, and I do say many meetings concerning this land sale at Lyons Township High School, that members of the Willow Springs Board, along with President Nettermeyer and Administrator Grace, attended all of the meetings in which the subject land was on the agenda. They came not only to represent the village, but also to show the support that the countless residents like myself, the parents and concerned citizens who implored LCHS to take a different approach to this land sale. I know I speak for many of my neighbors, many of whom cannot be here tonight, when I say thank you for your efforts. I also want to thank the representatives from the other municipalities that spoke out against industrial development on that land, many of whom are here tonight, including Pleasantdale District 107, Pleasantdale Parks, and the villages of Burr Ridge, Countryside, and Indian Head Park, to name a few. As a resident and a parent of children who attend Pleasantdale Elementary, I am heartened that a third-party land use study has confirmed what we've all been saying for nearly a year. Industrial uses do not belong on that property. They do not belong next to homes, they do not belong next to parks, and they don't belong next to a national blue ribbon winning feeder district for LG. I would like to address them. We are all here tonight because of your willingness to profit for people, your inability to communicate and collaborate, and your stubborn refusal to admit wrongdoing. Countless volunteer hours, taxpayer dollars, and intergovernmental efforts have been wasted because you decided to obfuscate and attempt an end run around our community and its long-held zoning on the property. In the end, you were found by the Illinois Attorney General to have broken the law by improperly shielding your discussion about this property from this very public. On the closed session tapes that were ordered released, members of your board called our village undereducated and admitted that our community would be negatively impacted by your actions. Yet 3 days after that same LT board meeting, the one in which our community, many of the people that are here tonight, and our leaders implored you for more than an hour to reconsider the sale to industry, you doubled down on that very approach. You had your business director email prospective industrial bidders asking them to resubmit their bids for a use you knew was prohibited. You didn't listen to your constituents in Willow Springs, you didn't collaborate, you didn't engage, you didn't care enough to host an open forum such as this one. You heard our concerns, said, oh well, and tried not once, but twice to ram a bad development down our community's throat. While you obviously would prefer to move on to none of that happened, it remains vitally important to acknowledge how we got to this. And let's not mince words. This is the exact place we all could have started at a year ago if you were upfront and respectful toward our community.
Yes.
Your board said earlier this month, these issues are subject to local control. This is the local public body. This is the body that has zoning authority. Accept and abide by it. Or we subject our village and your constituents south of Joliet Road to a long fight that has been no one's touching. No one here has ever denied your right to sell that property, but you should respect the zoning if and when you choose to sell. You should support and encourage buyers that are compatible with our community. You should engage our community leaders and our residents to ensure that everyone feels like they come out ahead of this process. Willow Springs has set the standard tonight. Can you meet it? Thank you.
Good evening. We appreciate the invitation. I'm all meeting for the Board of Ed continues to believe strongly in making decisions that positively impact all students in our community. And it is our intent to work with all municipal partners as we consider the future use of this property based on the shared needs and priorities of our schools, students. I'm here tonight with colleagues from our administration
to hear the results of the land use study for the first time. Of that in such detail. For instance, the board looks forward to discussing the information shared tonight at one of our upcoming board of education meetings, which everyone is excited. Thank you.
Evening. I'm Guy Francis, I'm Mayor, Village Trustee and Mayor Pro Tem of the Village of Burr Ridge. I'm here speaking tonight on behalf of the Mayor and Board of Trustees of the Village of Burr Ridge. Thank you, Mayor, Village President Meyer, for hosting this village town hall. We appreciate the open forum and we certainly appreciate the opportunity to speak. I'm here representing our Board of Trustees and Mayor, and mention that we do continue to stand with the Village of Willow Springs and support their current zoning for the property. We also support the ability for LT to sell the property and have it developed within the current zoning. We know that the current zoning is compatible with strong inclusive, and it is protects the neighboring residents. It protects the students of the elementary, many of which are Burr Ridge residents themselves. We also support the findings of the knowledgeable and expert consultant, Mr. Halswell. Thank you. President. I'm county supervisor of Lyon Township. Company lines. And stand with the Village of Willow Springs. We support you. We believe that the zoning should rest with the governing municipality, local municipality, that best suits and represents their residents and their constituents. And the Village of Willow Springs, and you have on record full faith of township compliance support. Thank you.
Over 8 decades to develop this place we call Pleasant. This includes homes from 4 surrounding towns. We have all grown to love this beautiful area, and the rural feel it still manages to offer after having evolved from Indian villages and farms to the cohesive, well-planned community it is today. There's something terribly wrong when we have to invest so much time and effort in defending our community, and we all owe a debt of gratitude to the Willow Springs Mayor and Trustee, along with the representatives from the surrounding towns, for being so proactive with this defense. Make no mistake, our community is being threatened. The LT representatives here tonight, along with the LT Board of Education, planned the destruction of our community. They orchestrated over 8 months of illegal proceedings, planning the demise of Pleasantville, and to this day refuse to acknowledge any wrongdoing or offer an apology. Imagine this LT Board of Administration illegally planning something similar for Grange. Regardless of which D204 community is targeted, this should result in the dismissal of Superintendent Wadman and the previous board president Bill. Yet they act as if nothing transpired, portraying the ultimate image for the few that had not paid attention. This deceitful behavior has exposed many character flaws. The public has entrusted them with spending $100 million in tax. How can taxpayers go forward trusting they are not underhanded in everything else they are responsible? Transparency and collaboration are 2 buzzwords added to every other paragraph, yet they have shown zero commitment to these principles, while continuing to falsely claim they have surveyed the community despite most Sequoia's fear of further exposure. This lack of honesty and respect is appalling. As a taxpayer of District 204 for 40 years, and again, man, a public apology for both Brian Stachek, the LT businessman who continued to solicit industrial bids after all the public outcry, and Superintendent Water, the spearhead of this egregious behavior, neither of whom live in District 204. Along with the LT court, legally orchestrated a sale that would have permanently destroyed this beautiful. Unlike so many other obvious issues, this LT administration attempts to sweep under the rug. You will never escape this public shame unless you own up to your illegal behavior, sincerely apologize for choosing money over community, and show the proper respect for this top performing LT feeder district. Firing your previous legal counsel is not enough. We are LT, but first and foremost, we are Pleasant and the surrounding communities that support. Thank you.
My name is Steve Harper, and I have no idea what you do right now. I think it's. You can do whatever you need to do. Pretty clear the thing about the road dark to the top.
Or you could have proposed early school that they're proposing to that property. You put that there, it closes off development of that area. You can't put something in between, industrial between a park or a school and another school. You guys need to get, grab the bull by the horns here to take away the possibilities that are contrary to the plan. So, you guys need to go to the table.
We're just like thank them for organization. And, also, let's not forget, this is like right in the middle of Park District land. Let's not forget about that 17 acres does not belong to 204. And what I really wanted to make everyone aware of too, is that Waterman just got a raise. He's getting 3%. Just in April 20, right after the election, 3 weeks after the election, the board decided to vote him to have 3% raise and take his salary right now, his public record, is $247,000 per year. And now he is now guaranteed 3% raise per year. He is not worth that. They have a fiduciary responsibility. Let's start there. Instead of trying to poison little kids, and ruin a whole community, which he already knows that you, in his words, as he said before, that it's gonna come. I'm saying use that word. But my point is he knows he failed. Doesn't matter if he doesn't want to admit it or not. But the bottom line is that we need to make sure that the whole LT community knows who is really sitting on those seats. Because the next 5 years is going to be the most crucial time for us to really take back our community of LT.
District 204 cannot afford the members that are on this board right now. Thank you very much.
My name is Tom Pierce. I'm also a previous member of the district. Great that all of the other communities surrounding Little Springs have joined in this process. And I challenge each of them to stand up and commit to joining the intergovernmental agreement to support Little Springs. And I appreciate your support. I'm here on behalf of the
Well, many of them I met when they were 3 years old. They got both of me. I've been all of them for 19 years. The residents I represent are like family. This community is like family. I would love to see residential development that you're speaking of, keep the harmony and keep things moving forward in the right direction. My children have benefited from Lions Township High School. My children benefited from Pleasant Hill. Things have changed at Lions Township High School. I was amazed at what I saw at those meetings. We need to bring things back to how they were. My mother went to LT, my father-in-law, great place, a lot of profit. My kids are all thriving. Our developer here, comprehensive plan, second time around.
Yeah.
I got to see it first time. I can't wait to see them unveiling of that. Great blueprint, and it's great advice to keep our communities going in the right direction. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Amy Jo Wittenberg, and I'm the president of the Indian Park. Thank you so much for all of your commitment to our process this evening, and Willow Springs for your commitment to this entire situation. I see a lot of LT and neighborhood alums all throughout here. We all grew up in this area. We all, our parents, some of our grandparents were raised and educated at LT and our elementary theater districts. And we want the right decisions to be made on this issue. We want the voices heard in our community, and I want you all to know that the residents of Indian Head Park, especially the south of Joliet Road, which we have heard a million times, had forgotten. Indian Head Park, we've heard that feedback. So we are here for you, and we support you 120%. And I thank you very much.
Today, however, I'm here as a member of the community organization we formed in response to an issue that business and allied industrial area. In Willowbrook, when we found out that a business in a light industrial zone area, in a light industrial zone area near our schools was releasing a potent cancer-causing gas, and have been doing so for 3 decades, we started working toward a solution. We all anticipated that our environmental protection agencies, our health departments, and the goodwill of private industries would be enough to ensure that students and communities were kept at a safe distance from them, like pollutants that require permits and oversight. I was part of a community that had a front row seat to how this failed. We looked to the US EPA and the Illinois EPA since they had brought the problem to our attention. They couldn't do anything. We looked to our municipal government for a solution, trying to find something in ordinances or policy that could be used to close the facility. Unfortunately, there was very little that could be done without a long, potentially unsuccessful legal battle. The land was zoned for the type of business it was. And all permits were in compliance regardless of the committees that the village had and company had before they opened in 1984. About the risk such a business would pose to the community. In the end, we worked to pass new state laws imposing distance setbacks for this specific reason, from places where children gather, including schools and daycares, as well as additional targeted restrictions to help convince citizens to relocate. We spent a year of our lives fighting to stop the pollution. I continue to meet people in Willowbrook and Burridge and elsewhere who tell me about the impact of that pollution on their families and neighborhoods. In other communities I've met across the US, they work for years or decades, if they're successful at all, at removing inappropriately located businesses. It would be much, much better to do as this community is doing right now to prevent this situation in the first place, instead of fighting after, like we had to. In our experience, we could not rely on EPA for anything substantial besides information. It falls to our state laws, our counties, and most of all, to our municipalities to be the first line of defense and prevent the harm.
And then Wolf Springs for 7 years, okay? I retired from Wolf Springs. I worked for BNSF for 4 years. Now, all of a sudden, I'm thinking, wow, we have a great revenue of BNSF. Okay? And I found out that Hodgkins annexed it. Then there was UPS. They got annexed, right? Was, and there was another piece of land up north. 75th and Little Springs Road. They got annexed about 5 years ago, am I correct? That's what they said when I was at the meeting over there. This is the new UPS yard over there. Okay. Now, this property over here is gonna get developed. If they sell it commercial, it's gonna get developed. Where's the money gonna go? Where's that tax go? Where is it gonna go? Well, it'll go to them or whoever. I would like you, the lawyer, to try to claw back Little Springs if it's possible, probably is, but it is. But I would like you to claw back some of the property or some of the revenue. I went to Atkins, they have forms you could fill out. Where did you get money? You get money back. What would a sweet deal that be for us? That's all I have to say.
My name is Ernie Wood, and I am the citizen of Little Springs, homeowner. I've been here 35 years. The other thing that's out of the area, the school board members in my township here. Well, other than us being not very educated, the question I have, I understand public information, how much is made a year. But, and see protect. What really bothers is that they're still educated. They just ask and check with the zoning laws here in Cold Springs before they try and spend so much money on all of this. This is one I don't know here. They just try to split the fines. So I'm glad we stood up for ourselves and our citizens. That's just my question. Then they check the zoning.
Anyone else? in the audience? We do have some comment cards here, that have been filled out, and I will read them into the record. We have Kathy and Jerry Hahn, who are residents here in Willow Springs, who say, great job getting this engineer to advocate to protect our community, no industrial. We have Larry Roberts, also a resident here in town, says residential is okay. A pledge that Hodgkins went to annex this, a pledge that Hodgkins won't annex this. Catherine Camon, longtime Willow Springs resident. Hopefully, no fear of being sued by the industrial people and LT board. Got me thinking that this could be coming already. Jim Ryan, Willow Springs resident, how likely is it that there will be litigation? Josie Mazar, a Willow Springs resident, can you speak to what is the current discussion with the Lyons Township High School and their continued plans for this parcel of land? Mr. Clarence Zima, Willow Springs resident, I approve of the village's current zoning. Patty Essig, of Countryside, any idea to what percent of the negative impact to the homeowners if industrial goes in? Deborah Kismarsick, Willow Springs resident. Keep the zoning as is. Traffic is horrendous now, as well as noise from the trains and cars. I'm sure this zoning will still not save industry from surely us to conflict. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble reading that. P.S. Keep up the work, stop industry from acquiring the property. Few more. Debaters of Howard Avenue. Thank you for including all residents in tonight's meeting. Having lived in the area since 1989 and with the village and with Willow Springs incorporating us, this has been much important. I would hate to see that destroyed by industry. And the last one, Joe and Tina's, a Willow Springs resident. Thank you for all your efforts in initiating a study of the proposed zoning property. Industrial for this property hopefully will never leave. I do see one more coming, and I think we have a few more comments to make, but I will read this one and thank you for that. From Joe Felnick. LP should not be selling the property. Once sold, the money is gone. Find a creative way to generate continuing income in line with current. And that is all. All the comment cards.
And President, I just wanted to offer a couple of takeaways. And you usually don't hear lawyers say this, but I'm going to say it because of the excellent position that Willow Springs is in. Homes are secure, school is secure, park is secure, the zoning is sound and secure. There's no better and more qualified planning firm or they are retained. So for a proposed industrial developer or another unit of government to waste taxpayers' money attempting a zoning change is just that, a waste of taxpayers' money. What you heard tonight was a shorthand version of the village's defense of the zoning that it ever in court. It's presented tonight to avoid any future implication. The message was loud and clear. I personally want to thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, Bert. And I want to say too, in closing, that it is a true honor and privilege to be able to help facilitate this town hall meeting tonight. I realize that everybody here has commitments and this is a time commitment. Local officials and dignitaries that are here and many community members that are here have put in a lot of hours, as you've heard, on this issue. And so I truly appreciate that and all of the work. This process works because of you all and your feedback. So thank you very much. We will post a recording of this meeting on our village website tomorrow. We do have hard copies of the report here for you to take with you. A copy of that can be posted on our website as well. And while we have concluded the meeting tonight in our comments, we always welcome your comments. Send us an email, you can drop comments at any time, and we will contact you. Thank you, everyone, very much. Have a good one.